Ethan sat alone at the small corner table, his son's empty booster seat pushed against the wall. Dinner for one had become his quiet ritual since his wife passed. Half survival, half stubbornness to prove he could still create some semblance of normal. He stirred his coffee absent-mindedly, staring at the menu he had no real appetite for. The restaurant buzzed with couples and families, laughter spilling across the room, highlighting his solitude. Ethan didn't mind anymore. He had made peace with being invisible. But tonight, invisibility ended in the most unexpected way. "Don't move," a low, urgent voice whispered beside him. He looked up to find a sharply dressed woman, mid-30s, confident, but with eyes betraying a storm. "Pretend you're my husband. Please." Before Ethan could protest, she slid into the chair opposite him, her hand covering his like they were old lovers. His heart raced, confused and suspicious, yet something in her expression, equal parts desperation and trust, anchored him. Across the room, two men in tailored suits scanned the crowd like hawks. The woman straightened, smiling too brightly. "Darling," she said, loud enough for the men to hear. "Did you order for us?" Ethan, still stunned, nodded. He didn't know who she was or why she needed him, but his son's empty chair suddenly felt like fate. And just like that, the single dad at a table for one became the accidental partner in a stranger's secret war. Ethan's throat went dry. He'd been asked to fix a lot of things as a dad. Scraped knees, broken toys, late-night nightmares, but never to step into a stranger's life as her husband. The woman squeezed his hand tighter, her nails digging lightly into his skin as if anchoring herself. "I'm Claire," she whispered without moving her lips, her smile still plastered on for the men watching. "CEO of Stratton Tech. Those men can't know I'm alone tonight." Ethan blinked. "CEO," it explained the tailored suit, the diamond earrings that looked like they belonged in a magazine, and the kind of presence that drew eyes without trying. Still, why him? A construction worker in a faded flannel, trying to keep his son's world stitched together. "They'll leave if they think I'm taken," Claire added quickly. "Just play along." Ethan inhaled, steadying himself. He had promised his son to always help people, even when it was inconvenient. "Sure, darling," he said, his voice awkward but firm enough to carry. Her shoulders softened just slightly. The men across the room exchanged a look, muttered something to each other, and left the restaurant. Only then did she exhale. "You just saved me a very messy evening," Claire said, her professional mask giving way to genuine relief. She released his hand slowly, as though realizing how tightly she had clung to it. Ethan managed a small smile. "Well, glad I could help. Guess I'm better at pretending than I thought." She studied him then, not with the cool detachment of a CEO, but with curiosity. "You're not what I expected." Neither was she. And for the first time in a long while, Ethan felt the night might hold more than loneliness. The waiter arrived, setting down 2 glasses of water. "Will your wife be having the usual tonight?" he asked Ethan, glancing at Claire. "Wife." The word caught in Ethan's chest like a spark in dry grass. Claire smiled smoothly, answering before Ethan could stammer. "Yes, he knows my tastes perfectly." When the waiter left, Ethan chuckled nervously. "You're good at this." Claire leaned back, her expression softening for the first time. When you're a woman running a company in a world full of men who think power means intimidation, you get good at pretending. Ethan studied her, seeing past the sharp suit and polished exterior. There was weariness beneath her poise, the kind he recognized in his own reflection, the kind carried by people who had to be strong because there was no other choice. "My son would have liked you," Ethan said suddenly, surprising himself. Her brow arched. "Your son, Jack, 6 years old. I usually bring him here on Fridays, but tonight he's with my sister." Ethan paused, unsure why he was opening up. "He thinks I can fix anything. Truth is, I'm just figuring it out as I go." Claire's gaze softened, the CEO armor cracking. "That makes 2 of us." Silence stretched between them, not awkward but strangely comforting. 2 people from different worlds, bound by a moment neither expected. Claire reached for her water, her hand brushing his again. "Maybe fate doesn't make mistakes," she murmured. Ethan wasn't sure if he believed in fate. But as he sat across from a woman who had turned his lonely dinner into something extraordinary, he felt a stir of possibility, something he hadn't allowed himself to feel in years, something dangerously close to hope. The restaurant began to thin out, leaving only the soft hum of quiet conversations. Ethan checked his watch, then looked back at Claire. "So, do I ask what that was all about? Or is this one of those don't ask situations?" Claire hesitated, then sighed. "Business rivals. They've been circling me for months, trying to corner me into a deal I don't want. They expected to find me alone tonight. A vulnerable target." Her lips curved into a wry smile. "But thanks to you, they'll think twice." Ethan shook his head, half amused, half bewildered. "Never thought eating alone would land me in corporate espionage." Claire laughed, really laughed, and the sound startled them both. It wasn't polished or practiced. It was real. "Maybe I owe you dinner," she said. "You don't owe me anything." Ethan's tone softened. "People help people. That's how the world should work." Her expression shifted at that, like no one had spoken to her that simply in years. For a woman surrounded by deals, contracts, and strategies, kindness without strings attached seemed almost foreign. The waiter returned with their meals, and for a while they just ate, the silence companionable. Ethan caught himself glancing at her, wondering how someone who lived in skyscrapers and boardrooms could look so at ease in a small-town diner. "Tell Jack I said hi," Claire said suddenly. Ethan blinked. "You remembered his name?" "Of course I did." She smiled softly. "Anyone who believes in you the way he does is worth remembering." Ethan's chest tightened. It wasn't romantic, not yet, but it was human, raw, and rare. For the first time in years, he felt like someone truly saw him. They lingered long after the plates were cleared, both reluctant to leave the fragile bubble that had formed between them. Outside, rain tapped against the window, blurring the city lights into a watercolor haze. Ethan traced the rim of his coffee cup. "Most nights, it's just me and Jack. I try to make it fun for him. Movie nights, pancakes for dinner. But sometimes," he stopped, his voice catching, "sometimes I worry he's missing out on things I can't give him." Claire didn't interrupt. She leaned in, listening the way people do when they care, not when they're waiting for their turn to speak. "I lost my husband 3 years ago," she said quietly. The CEO mask was gone again, replaced with something raw. "Since then, I've built walls so high I don't even know how to climb over them anymore. Tonight, I panicked when I saw those men. And then, there you were. Just there. Their eyes met, two worlds colliding in a moment of unspoken understanding. Loss had carved different paths for them, but the ache was the same. "You're stronger than you think," Ethan said gently. "Not because you've never fallen, but because you keep standing back up." Claire blinked, her composure faltering. "Do you always talk like that?" He smiled faintly. "Only when I mean it." For the first time in years, Claire felt the weight on her shoulders ease, if only a little. And Ethan, who had come to dinner resigned to loneliness, found himself sitting across from someone who understood the language of survival as well as he did. It wasn't romance. Not yet. But it was something rarer. Two strangers reminding each other they weren't alone in the fight.